probably getting your drink.
Really.
Yeah.
What we said about Dan anyway?
Please let me know when the cameras are ready.
Right, you're all good at the back.
Nice to see you, mate, as always.
You're feeling better?
Yeah, not quite there, yeah, about 80% out of the woods, I think, yeah. I don't like to keep going on about it, though, so we'll move on.
He's probably better on the bench, I think.
Yeah. Talking of fitness, Jakob Sorensen, what can you tell us?
Probably back Saturday.
Positive, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's the feeling right now. That's how it looks right now. So of course we need to test him with a good session tomorrow and see if everything is still fine. But that's how it seems for the moment.
Did you have to go and get him scanned in the end? Or?
No, there was no need for that because it was actually also what we hoped for. It was better already the day after. So there was no need for that. So it looks all right. And like I said, we really need to test him tomorrow. But we are positive.
Appreciate, obviously we're in the middle of the week, so there's a few sessions to come now, but in terms of the lads who are on duty on Sunday, any issues there you're looking at the minute fitness-wise?
No, they're ready.
Obviously, because it's potentially relevant, another week, another FA charge from the QPR game for one of your players. Angus just basically wanted to clarify, because their statement says that you've got until tomorrow to respond. So have the club reached the position whether they'll accept that or contest it? We
have to respond, and we have to of course first of all find out how clear the evidence is and what they have seen and to find out before we can give that proper response. But now we know there's a charge, and we of course dig into it to see how we will react to that. I think the most important for us is that we try to get an answer before a couple of hours Saturday before kick-off. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I mean, on all seriousness now, that is, you've already experienced that once. You don't really want to have to go through that again, because you do need to start thinking about potential other scenarios if he's unavailable. Yeah,
we have done since QPR. We train with the 22 players out there, so we have two lineups already. So that's been the case. No, on a serious note. Of course, they have the rights to dig into bad behavior, and if they feel it's bad behavior, you have to look into it and see if we accept that or not. And of course, it comes down to the evidence that they can bring, and also how Angus first of all saw and felt the situation. And of course, we have to look into that. So it is how it is, and I think overall we were not satisfied, especially with the treatment of us and Kenny in that particular situation, because we thought it was a decision being made too late, and I think that was maybe our biggest concern about that particular moment. But on the other hand, we also have to accept that we are a football club playing in a league where there is certain rules we have to follow also as players and teammates and staff members and so on. So of course, if there's a case, then there's a case, and we need to accept it once in a while.
I mean, putting all the strands of this episode together now, the Kenny thing, the Angus thing, and maybe how the game played out on the day. I'm particularly interested because on the aspect of those decisions that maybe went against your side, you said after Portsmouth that you'd spoken and had very positive conversations with Kevin Friend and the ref, to be fair, on the day at QPR. Yeah. So as a club, are those discussions ongoing now that maybe at the higher level now with the FA, something needs to happen in terms of maybe just some communication in a very respectful manner from both sides? I
think it would be a good idea just to reach out. I think what's most important is that we just clarify the rules and what teams can expect. And like I said, I don't think any team can expect that they will be given a suspension more or less on the same day that you have to play a game. I don't think that's professional. If his behavior was not good enough, then fine, we respect that, and we respect that if they need to take a decision. But we also need to make very clear rules for what we can expect in this busy schedule, so it cannot happen on game days. And if there's doubts or appeals going on or whatever, then probably, as you see in some other countries, then the player will play until there's a decision being made. So we don't do anything in a hurry, or we don't do anything too, not looking good enough into the evidence and the situation, because we have to take a decision before one day or whatever. So that's something we need to look into. But of course we respect it, and if it's bad behavior from us, we need to also look into that. So it's not only us blaming and saying it's because of the others or it's because of a federation. No, we also as a club and as a team need to look into those situations and those moments and how we can avoid it.
Just one more on this. I think in a spirit of trying to move it forward, I mean, is that something that you would like to try and maybe get from their side, the timing of these things? Why it takes 10 days after that game for the Kenny thing to come out, and then the stuff from the same game, now Angus is a further week further on, but then you only get 1 or 2 days to respond to that as well. It just seemed a little bit in terms of the time scale. Yeah, and
it's a little bit random, because when also, let's say at some point it will happen to other clubs in the league, what can we expect then? When will the player be out? Can we plan with, is he in or not in? What can we plan with? And I think that's just fair play to all the teams in the league, that we need to know, or at least as close to what we can expect and what the situation is. And I think that's the thing we need to clarify just going forward in this matter.
Moving off that, just one really on the Burnley game, in terms of, because you were very clear on the goals that you conceded and maybe some of the issues individually, collectively, that your team could have done better. But so when you get back here and you're debriefing that, how do you sit through as a group the video? Do you do it as units, one-to-one? I mean, I guess it's just those honest mutual conversations again about trusting people if they feel they've made an error, put a hand up.
Yeah, always a team meeting in the morning where everyone is in. All coaches, all players, everyone is there. And then we go through which we think is the story of the game. What's the most important for us to take out learning aspects from the game, but also kind of prepare the next game if we can do that. Sometimes it's not possible, then we just need to go only with that game. But we always have team meetings every morning that we meet in, and we present clips and we go through the plan of the day, the training and stuff like that. So everyone is prepared, and we go into details and try to open up also for discussions, because it is a environment we try to create where it is learning, and we need to take, no matter if we win or lose, we need to take all the learning out from every game and make sure that we can do it just a little bit better in the next one. And for that to be done, I need to hear from the players once in a while. I cannot just expect, if I'm talking for half an hour, that they understand it. I need to ask them some questions. I need to hear, what do you think you need to do in this particular moment? How can you defend this better? How do you see your position in this situation? So it needs to be we try to open up that room so there is more conversation and questions being asked, even though of course it is me talking for 80-90% of the time and is showing clips and preparing the team. But I think we try to do it in a good way, and then of course after games we do it more individual. We sit down with players, we look at situations. Sometimes it's just a discussion or conversation, and sometimes it can be clips or sometimes other things involved. And that we always try to do after games as well. So it is a little bit different, and some players, they handle it better when it's one-to-one, and some players, they handle it better when it's a room where everyone can hear and we can really discuss some principles and things.
But having said all that, and that there clearly were errors on your part of your side in those two crucial moments for the Burnley goal. But when you slice it up, you led until the 68th minute.
Yeah.
Even after they scored the two, I mean, Emmy has that fantastic chance in stoppage time. Yeah. That goes in, you walk off with a point, and the whole vibe is different, and the feeling is different around that performance. Yeah. Is that, again, as much as highlighting where you need to be better, but it is fine margins, even against teams at the top end of the table? Yeah,
and especially against teams that are on the top, because I don't think, with all due respect to the teams that are, in a not as good position as Burnley, they will not score goals from the positions that Burnley did in the weekend. But we have to expect that, especially against the teams that are really fighting up there for promotion, they don't need many chances to score their goals. They have really a lot of quality in the teams, and that's, I think, before the game started, I also spoke to the boys and said it's a good test for us, because we see how close we are. And I actually saw for the most of the game that we are definitely close, and we can also sometimes be better than the teams that are up there. But I also, like I also said to you guys after the game, I can also see based on that game where it is we need to improve and what areas of the game we need to make better. So hopefully in the near future we can compete against those teams and we can beat those teams, because that is the ambition. But it's also very important for me always to take the learning out of the games, try to put the result just a little bit aside and see, okay, I think even though we got 0 points against Burnley, I think the performance was so much better than what we delivered in Portsmouth and got 1 point away from that. So don't be carried away or too carried away by the result and the end product, but look at what was actually going on in these 90 minutes.
Just one or two on your favourite topic, the transfer window, if I can.
Yeah.
But only because you've referenced, when you've been asked about this recently, about, you know, we have to have at the back of our heads inward and outward decisions, but the homegrown dimension.
Yeah.
In terms of, as we know, that there's clear rules on
Yeah.
how you've got a name in your matchday squad. So does that, going into January, mean you have to tip more towards maybe the domestic market than might have been the case?
No, I don't think so. It's just something we always need to have in mind. So we cannot. Let's say we do 5 signings, then all of those 5 signings cannot be, you know, from all over the world. We need to think about homegrown players, but I particularly think that the homegrown market for us needs to be younger players, because otherwise it gets too expensive, and it's not a market for us where we can compete. And some of those very good players, homegrown, they go to other destinations. They look for Premier League clubs, which is fair. So I think we have to find them younger, just like we did with Lucian being signed here just this summer. I think that's the strategy from the club when we have to look at homegrown players. So we also have the time to prepare them a little bit, because that market is so difficult and it's so expensive. But it is something we need to have in mind, and I think it is something where every time we're about to do again 5 signings, then at least one of them, if not 2, needs to be homegrown, and that's just that's the rules, and that's how it is.
And the other aspect I just wanted to touch on, you talk about strategy there, and we know clearly, and it was underlined again first half, particularly on Sunday, you know, there's a very specific way you want to try and build the play and the players within that template. But with each month you're here in England and that knowledge you've assimilated, your coaches have assimilated, the data that you can throw in, does that, when you're looking at drawing up recruitment types of profile of player now, do you have to, or do you feel now you're making a few tweaks to maybe what your game model is based on that data that's building up every month? With it, I mean, the reason I'm going down this route is, like, specifically maybe you wouldn't say your team's play with a 6, like a defensive midfielder whose job is only just to sit in front of the back 4. That's clearly not what you're about. But, and we've seen it, maybe those away struggles away from home. Yeah. Is there a case for a player of that type within your squad, you feel?
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and I think it is. I think we have some good players, midfielders going forward and being attacking in their mindset. But I think maybe we could use a midfielder that you know have an eye for, okay, if he's leaving that position, if he's joining the attack, then I need to support and go and cover that space and make sure that if we lose the ball up here, then I can be ready on the counter. I can be ready to organize the team again. I think it's a good point also for us to be even better in the pressing game and to win even more balls and interceptions and so on. So we also can score even more goals on the counter. But I think it's definitely a role that we are looking for, to see how we again can make that group of midfielders as different as possible. So we have players that can cover, of course, more positions, but we also have players for different roles. So definitely, and I think that is, again, and we just had a meeting yesterday, a long one, about how we think the team should look after January, and how we think again the team should look like after August maybe. So we're always planning ahead, and we're always making sure that decisions we take now should not be too just because we in the moment need something. It needs to be along the strategy and with the future in mind. And also, as you've seen this summer, the targets are a little bit different than what we are used to in the club, and sometimes it will take a little bit more time, but it's important we use all the training we can. It's important we use all the game time that we can to make that group as competitive and as good as possible. I think we had some really, really good moments against Burnley where we can play out from the back and we can create chances. And And sometimes we can even make those chances look like counterattacks because we make them step up with so many players. We attract them so close to our goal, and then we find a way out, and then we attack against 3-4 players on half a pitch, which is fantastic moments for us to create chances. But we could also see that sometimes we take the wrong decision and we play with too much risk in a situation where we have to avoid it, and we have to be more cynical in our decision and our approach. And that is the fine balance to coach, because I always talk about I want to see courage from players. So why should I then tell them, hey, just get rid of the ball in this situation? So it's a fine balance, and that pass can make the difference. If we just find that pass in between two opponents, and we find the free player can just start attacking, then everyone is like applauding that guy and thinking, okay, what a fantastic pass. But the next situation, if he makes a mistake in that situation, then everyone is like, that was not good. So it is that, which I've said a lot so far this season, that risk reward. And I think when we take risk, we also play really, really good. But we need to find out when to take risk and when to be a little bit more direct in our approach, and with a little bit less risk. And it takes time. But again, I've seen those good moments. So it's just that consistency and game reading and decision making in those moments. That's the things we're really, really training on.
And that's probably a nice seg into Sunderland, actually, because they look like a group. I know the head coach has only come in the summer, but as a group and a strategy, you can see there's a lot of parallels there. They went with a lot of younger players last season for the first time. Clearly, there's a process they're trying to build. They finished 16th this time around. They're in the top 4, and they look like they've evolved as a group of players. And those moments, they know how to handle them better because they had those experiences last season. Yeah,
definitely. And I think when you are in a league and you compete against clubs where they have a bigger budget, they have a bigger reach maybe in terms of the players they can bring in, then you have to find something else you compete on. That's what we try to do here. That's why we try to be as clear as possible in our decisions and our choices, in our strategy, in the way that we play, so we can compete with that. We don't, if we just rely on having the best possible players, there will also be a strategy that will be the most expensive in the world. So we need to do something different than that. And I think Sunderland is a good example. I think they play really, really well, and also something we need to be really prepared for, because in my opinion it's the best transition team in the league. I think if you look at the movements up front, if you look at the chances they create from counter-attacks and being very direct in their approach, I think they're really, really good in that area of the game. So for us, again, really much about balance, not being tempted to go into certain areas where we know there's a big risk, but reading the moments well and see if we can go against their pressing direction and find that opposite side as quick as possible. So we avoid those moments where we lose it in critical areas of the game, because that will be the deal breaker in the game. If we are good in reading those moments and getting away from the pressure and finding the free spaces, then we can hurt them. But if we are tempted and if we take the wrong decisions, if we play a little bit too slow, then we can get hurt. So that's really been the headline for me in the preparation today and before today's training, and it will be the upcoming days.
And you can see, as which the last two results as well, on the same thing. Those soft skills, the adversity, you've spoken about it a lot, and being able to respond to it. They get a 90th minute equaliser last time out at home, and then they're 2 down early in Swansea, you come back to win that game.
Yeah.
Maybe last season, that group of players, they don't lose, or they lose even heavily that game. So, it's clearly a group who are growing under a new head coach, and it's safe. I mean, you've said it there, you think they're a very good transition team, but it probably is a difficult assignment as you can have at the moment. Yeah,
and that's why it's so important for me. Like I started with that. Sometimes we need to isolate the result. I know in football it's difficult, but we need to look at what was actually going on. What was actually the game picture from minute 1 to minute 90. To put that just a little bit aside, because I think when you're building something, when you're trying to create something, then what you need is experience, and you need to face it, you need to evaluate, and you need to try it again. And that you have to do consistently. So you get the experience. At some point, you get to that point where, okay, I've tried it so many times, I know exactly what to do. I know when he's coming from here and he's coming from here, I know where to give a pass. I know when they are building up like this, we can press like this. But that takes experience. And experience has nothing to do with age. Because that's just how many times have you actually tried it. I think Callum Doyle, for instance, is an experienced player for us. I don't think Kellen Fisher is. even though they are close to being the same age. So I think it's about repetition, it's about being in those moments, and it's about learning. So every time we face adversity, every time we face something that is difficult, then frustrations cannot take over. We need to take the learning out of it. So hopefully in the future, hopefully already this season, that we can be better next time we face something similar. And I think that's probably what you see in Sunderland now, that they can be 2-0 down in Swansea and still fight back, because they have probably tried it before. They know how to deal with it. They know what kind of patterns they need to find, what kind of mentality and character from individuals that you need to find. And that's the most difficult thing in football, because we are human beings. Frustrations can take over. We can be emotional, and sometimes emotions can take over. But one thing is for sure, that if emotions take over, then we don't take good decisions. So that is really, again, that balance and training and feedback, evaluating, and then talking to players about it, because that's what it's all about. And that's why I love being in here on a Monday, even though we lost, because there's always something we can do. There's always something we can talk with the players about. We can train out there, and I of course love being here when we win, and hopefully that will be the fact Sunday morning.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the reason it's a good job you like being here, because the final one I wanted to throw it was, this is your first Christmas in England as a head coach, and Sunderland is the first 5 games in less than a fortnight. Checked earlier, you had a 2-month break. I don't mean you lot put for 2 months, but in Denmark last season, the Super League season stopped for 2 months. So
yeah, and it is like that.
So that's a huge contrast. I mean, how you deal with that yourself, in terms of you've now got this very intensive period, and without making too much of a cliche, that's what maybe we're told a lot of countries around Europe like about English football, that Christmas period was they're still mad enough to continue playing.
Yeah, but it's fantastic. I've sat there in my couch when I was 10 years old and I watched English football. Now I'm a part of it. I'm in there. So no complaints from here. Just told my wife she just needs to leave the food hot and warm and prepared for when I come home, and then everything is hopefully ready. My family is there and we eat together, and then I go again. And that's how it is. It's fantastic. We enjoy it over here, and it's like I said, there's so much support and friendly people and really so many good things to do. So the family they take care of it, and they just wait for me with the dinner, and then we have the dinner, and then I go back to the training ground and prepare the guys again. But hopefully it will be with a couple of wins, so the mood is even better. So we're really gonna enjoy the Christmas, and that will be the most important thing. But I think it's fantastic, and I think it is something special. It's culture, and I think when you go abroad and when you find a job outside of the country you come from, you're also there to explore the culture and see different things and just be a part of it. And I think it's fantastic, and we have a huge obligation. We try to make everyone smile, especially on Boxing Day when we're here at home, because that will be the best day for everyone. So no complaints. I just appreciate it and try to enjoy it.
Good luck Saturday.
Thank you.
Cheers, Pat. Go the cameras off, please, guys, and then Phil.